Hi guys, my name's Alyssa and welcome back to my channel. First off, if I look weird, it's because I'm not wearing mascara because my son lost it. I don't know where my mascara is. It's really awkward and I'm sorry about that. Second off, here's my 7th house video. The 7th house is an angular house, okay? It is the 3rd angular house that I've talked about. Basically, I've talked about the 1st house and the 4th house, and this is the 7th house. This house also starts off the top part of your chart. The top hemisphere, the northern hemisphere, whatever. As we're going along, it finishes off that 6th house, because that 6th house is that transitional house that takes your southern part of your chart into the northern part. And as I said in the 6th house, it's all about finding your own illnesses, making yourself healthy so that you're free to be in a relationship. Well, what if you have just a lot of planets in this relational house? Now, your descendant is a few things. One of them, it is your shadow. And that is something that is innately in you that you don't necessarily resonate with, okay? That you feel like you don't have. 2, it represents your spouse. It represents the person that you eventually marry in some way, what you're looking for. Because we're all looking for that yin to our yang, that, oh, you're going to complete me feeling. And we all feel that that thing that we're lacking, that shadow that we're lacking, is what we're going to find in a person to marry or to be with forever if you don't believe in marriage. This is actually going to tell you if you believe in marriage or not. It's going to tell you how delusional you are about relationships, or how boring you are about them, or how idealistic you are. Having your sun or a stellium of planets in the 7th house is going to make you relationship-centric. A lot of times astrologers will read this as selfless. If astrologer is going to read my chart to me, they will tell me you're very selfless. You do things for the other, not for yourself. And this is true. If you meet me in person, you'll say, Alyssa, you really, really like to help people. But the thing is, and I think most people with a lot of planets in their 7th house understand about this, is that this is not your whole life. This is a part of your life. This is a part of your life that you're almost embarrassed of, because it makes you feel like you're less of a person. Because there are 2 people in the world. There are leaders and there are followers. A lot of planets in the 7th house makes you look like a follower. Why? Because you want to share stuff with other people. You want to share your life with others. You don't want to go at it alone. You don't want to lead alone. You want somebody else there. Because the 7th house is also partnerships. You don't want to just have your own business. You want to bring in people with you. The 7th house is often looked at as this really insecure house, because people see people who need other people in their life as needy. And so they are insecure because they use people to get ahead, or, you know, they spend all their life looking for another person instead of looking at themselves. And they're nobody you want to be. Most people don't get to know a 7th house person and say, oh, I just want to be like you. They don't, because it seems so pointless. You seem like this great person from far away, but up close you're like, you like relationships, you value them more than you value yourself. That's stupid. And in a way it is stupid. Having your sun in the 7th house is like having your sun in the crazy house, because it is the opposite of where your sun wants to be. Your sun thrives in the 1st house because that's your identity. My shadow side says this is the way that you're not. And here my ego is everything that I'm not, because my ego is all up in my shadow. Like my ego, which is my sun sign, is all up in the wrong side of my chart, is saying this is not what I identify with. So what do I identify with? I identify with partnerships. I see myself in other people. Even if it's just not your sun, you identify that planet that is in the 7th house with other people. It means you have to be very careful about the people you let in your life. 7th house people don't have boundaries. You let people take advantage of you. You think about this, somebody with their sun in the 1st house, their boundaries are up all the time because they are their own person. They know themselves and they don't want a partnership bringing up their ego, right? But if your sun's in the 7th house, you need a partnership so much you become what your partner wants, or you start thinking that you are like your partner and that your partner is like you. And a partner could be anything. It can be a roommate, a husband, a friend, a coworker, whatever, you start giving them everything of yourself, and you expect that they will do the same in return. And people don't, because people have boundaries, and when you don't have a boundary, people will cross them. People need to be told when to not infiltrate your life. And the 7th house is all about being infiltrated on a regular basis, because that's where the other is. That's where the people are. People are not all up in your ascendant all the time. This is like you're walking forward. You got no one in front of you because you're just walking, and there's your ascendant. And your descendant's behind you. It's showing off to everybody behind you. And it's taking everybody in. And so people are walking up behind you and they're taking whatever. And if your sun sign's in there, they're taking your ego away from you. You're not protecting it with anything. It's just behind you, and it's tailing off, and they can grab it at any time. There's no protection there. You're protecting everything up front with your ascendant sign. Any planet that's there, any 7th house thing is behind you. There's no protection. You can't fight it back like that. So the only way to protect it is to like put on some sort of backpack over it, and that means setting up your own personal boundaries. Say it's like your Venus is back there. That's your planet of love, right? And Venus is well in the 7th house, because you will attract a beautiful partner, because it's about what you want to attract. Having your Venus there, you maybe don't feel that you're that loving or that caring, because it's in your shadow side, so it's kind of behind you. You only will feel that way if somebody who is loving and caring can take your Venus and bring it around and show it to you. You need somebody else to show you that. Saturn's there. Saturn is like karmic issues, and like you're the lessons you have to learn in this life, and all of the crap that you go through, and your restriction and everything. So if that's in your 7th house, you're going to go through all of those painful lessons through someone else. And that's why they say Saturn in the 7th house people shouldn't get married before their Saturn return. And if they do, they end up in a divorce. Not all the time, but they go through something pretty shitty during their Saturn return, because that's where they realize through another human that their lesson has not been learned, or it has been learned. Even if your lesson's learned, you're still going to go through it. It just becomes easier. You work towards something that is perfect there. And you have Uranus in the 7th house. You don't feel crazy. You feel very normal, right? But Uranus is crazy and rebellious, and so you're attracted to that in other people. You're attracted to their crazy. So when they come in, they take your crazy and they show it to you in your face, and you're like, oh, that's a part of me too. So it makes sense that the people that we end up loving, for everything that we love about these people that we're attracted to, is ultimately what we hate about them, because it's our shadow. We're dating our shadow, and they show it to us. And if it's not something we can take care of, if it's not something we've ever wanted to pay attention to, we will reject that person for showing us a part of ourselves that we don't like. And so it is hard to have your sun in the 7th house. I'm not just saying that because I do, and it's intercepted in Libra. And an interception is another thing I'll talk about, but that really just makes it super isolated and suck. But having your sun in the 7th house is like, if you don't date someone or have a partnership with somebody, it's hard to find your ego. You are egoless until they come in and they take your ego and they show it to you. And if you don't like what you see, you will reject them, and you could be rejecting yourself. And what if they take that and you give them everything? Because you don't set up boundaries, and you are just like, I'm infiltrating your life because I want to find out about mine. And they say, no, I don't like you. That rejection hits you that much harder. There's a part of you that you don't even really know about. You can't fix them if they're broken. You can't see them clearly. You become this person who only knows how to nitpick at those planets. If, say, you have an empty 7th house, does it mean you don't want a relationship? No. Look for the sign. That sign is going to represent your shadow. And in my ascendant videos, I do talk about your shadow side. It's what you think of everybody else, but you think that you are not. Having your 7th house as this thing that you don't think that you are, you're poorly mistaken. Anyone who has a 7th house, which is everybody, there's that part of you. There's that sign or the planets that you reject as being like everybody else and not like you. If it's your sun and your ego, you're like, I don't have an ego. I don't. I hate myself. And that almost becomes something that you resonate with. Hatred of your own self. It doesn't make sense. Everybody else has an ego. You don't have one. You're egoless. Yet, when people look at you, they tell you that you have an ego. They say, oh,
your ego is crazy right now. You're so full of yourself.
And you're like, what? I don't even like myself. I wish I had an ego, but I don't. And then at the very same token, those people that don't like you, that say you have an ego because they can see it, because it's traveling behind you, that you're afraid to touch, they say,
oh, well, you're just so insecure because you need other people. You don't know how to love yourself.
And it's true. Sun in the 7th house people grow up very insecure because they are waiting for somebody to show them that they're important, because that is their life goal. Like, I've been waiting for a true love kiss. I'm a fucking Disney movie. And people with their Venus in the 7th house, same thing. You're the love you're waiting for. You don't love yourself. You need that love, so you need somebody else to reflect it back to you. If it's Mars, you're like, I'm not angry. I don't get mad at shit. Until you date somebody who's fucking angry. And they make you stare face to face with your own anger. That planet there is just not paid attention to. It does not belong to you in your own mind. But the problem is it's there. Sometimes that's going to screw you up, especially if it's something malefic, like Saturn or Mars or even Pluto or even Uranus. People who have Uranus in the 7th house have a lot of crazy relationships because they're crazy. People with Uranus in the 7th house are crazy. It's just in the 7th house, so it's shadowed over. But you're dating a crazy Uranus rebellious type person, and they're acting like a crazy person, and you're just like, crap, I have to be the straight person. And you can't be because they're bringing out your crazy. So you have to be really careful when you're looking for that yin to your yang or the best partner to partner with you in your business. You can't just take anybody. You can't just take the things that you see. Even before you get into these relationships, before you think, oh, it's okay, because we're not talking about evolved relationships here. This is your relational issue right now, is can you be in a relationship? If you haven't set up your own boundaries, you can't. They're going to show you things about you through overstepping into your life and picking it apart and throwing it back in your face. Say your moon's in there. If you are so afraid of attaching to your emotions, you will be emotionally attached to people your whole life, and sometimes those people are going to rip apart your emotions. Maybe you have Neptune there. You're not a delusional person. No, not at all. You're attracted to delusional people, right? Same with Pisces. You got a Virgo ascendant, you have Pisces in your 7th house. Oh, you're not delusional. No, you're so analytical and logical. But everybody that you like is delusional and they're crazy and they don't know anything. But look at this for a second. Everybody has a place of delusion. And if yours is in the 7th house, that means you are absolutely delusional about your relationships. And so you have to be careful because you will just immediately get blinded and fall into deep sort of love with horrible humans. And you might be horrible in return and you don't even know how you got there. Everybody has a 7th house, and that is going to take you to a place that you don't want to go when you're in a relationship. So if you're not aware of what's in that house, you're just gonna be freaked out every time. I think that people who are able to be in long-lasting relationships and they're healthy relationships are people who really truly know what's in their 7th house and they know how to use it. If you are just like avoidant of it, that partnership thing is never going to come true for you. And it's an angular house. That means it's one of the most important houses because relationships are important. Love yourself. Love people. Otherwise, what are we doing here? And so you have to love these people. You have to have partnerships. You have to. And these people are brought into your life to show you a part about yourself. And if it's good, it's good. And if it's bad, it's bad. And you need to listen to both. Everybody needs boundaries. People with planets in the 7th house need more. The reason why they need more is because they're not going to naturally do it. I don't naturally want to set up boundaries. I just want people not to take advantage of me. But if I don't set up boundaries, they're gonna, because why not? I don't know, because I wouldn't do it. If your sun is in the 7th house, there's a part of you that needs to satisfy a relationship before you can really accomplish much else. And it's a sad, harsh truth about being a 7th house person. It's true of me. I didn't make YouTube videos till I met my husband. Before I met my husband, I didn't date anyone because I was on this desperate search for it. And you could say, oh, I should have just stopped searching and just done me. I could have, maybe. But I didn't. There was no part of me that was like, stop searching for a guy. Actually, there was. A lot of me was like, Alyssa, stop being an idiot. You've never had a boyfriend. You're 24 years old. You're crazy for even thinking that you should get one. Go live your life. And I couldn't. It was like there was a tick. Let's go write your novel, Alyssa. No, what about that guy? What about that guy? It is crazy. And I think a lot of 7th house people feel like that. And when I found somebody who was good to me, things aren't always easy. It didn't get easier when we got married. Some things got really hard. I got married a week after the Uranus-Pluto squared the first time in 2012. Shit hit the fan after I got married. But I made YouTube videos. I got to make a life for myself, and I had kids, and my life is better, and I feel like I have direction now. Is that because I got married? No, it's because I married somebody who I could see good in, who saw good in me. And I have boundaries. Sometimes your ego needs to be satisfied before you can go and try something else. But until then, learn about yourself. Learn about the boundaries you need to set up. And don't expect other people not to walk all over you, because they absolutely will. Not because they're bad, but because people just need to be told. And that is your 7th house.